here's Brody Brazil.
I'm pretty excited to share this video with you in a product I just picked up and I've already put it into service. This is the Revelator io24 by PreSonus. It's fantastic. I've had it for about a week. I've put it through a few paces and now I'm ready to share a couple different things. Number one, why it's so important to me for audio during live streams and recordings just like this. I'll have that for you. I also want to share with you how I actually use this, the software side of this, and what this device is capable of. Quite honestly, it's so much more than you may even know or expect, especially for its price point. And last but certainly not least, I am a faithful user of the Universal Audio Apollo Twin X as my interface at home. I've had that one for several years. Absolutely love it, trust it. I think it's among the gold standards. But how does something like this, which is about a quarter of that price, how does it compare to something like the UAD Apollo Twin X? But before I get too deep into anything else, can I just say while you're here, and if you like this type of content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm really trying to grow this thing out as a platform for more content like this. And also at the end of this video, if you actually like it or found it useful, give it a thumbs up so that others here on YouTube can be recommended to it. So why get a device like this for my live streams? Let me explain first off here that at home, I've become accustomed to EQ and compression in real time. When I'm talking into this mic, the Sennheiser MKH416, I really want to hear how it sounds going out to the stream. I also want to hear, for example, if I play something else, how does that sound in the mix? How does my voice sit on top of it? How loud is that in the background? And so basically this device is able to handle all of that. There are some loopbacks, there are some mix minuses you can create, there's virtual devices. I'll get into all that stuff later on here in the video. But the fact that I can control everything for a live stream here is so important to me. Now I mentioned it's hardware versus software. I do want to clarify, software does control this device, but all of the processing power it needs happens inside this box, meaning that my little laptop over here doesn't have to do all the heavy lifting. This device is also USB powered, it's bus powered, so I don't have to have another power cord plugged into the wall. It's simple, it's portable, feels well built and durable. So in terms of why I got this, it was to essentially make my remote setup sound almost as good as my home setup. Clearly this room, by the way, not acoustically treated in the least. There's a lot of reverb in here. I knew I couldn't fix that, but at least I wanted to have the audio signal and chain as best as possible for these remote broadcasts. I also realized that I should give you a little bit of a better look at the front of the Revelator io24. It's laid out so well for single-person streaming operations. Obviously, your two input channels are here. They can be controlled by the 1 and 2 buttons respectively if you want to dive into each of those channels. You see the input level there, you see the preamp gain, as well as phantom power and a low cut filter if you have that engaged. But this is the main menu, the input volumes here on the left, the output volumes on the right. You can also control speaker volume, headphone volume, and the mix between the inputs and the playback. That's right there. And this is a knob, so obviously you can control the volumes there. What's also extremely valuable, like I said, especially for a single person streaming operation, if you want to mute everything to your stream, it was just that button right there. So critical in certain moments that if you need to just kill everything for just a second, you do have that mute button available to you. At least that's the way I have it set up, with the two audio signals left and right coming out of the back here and going straight into my ATEM Mini Pro. There's also the ability to access some of your presets for different vocal effects. You can do that with the software, but what if you just want to quickly do it with hardware? You want to push this one button right here. It's going to go from my voice setting to, well, I guess it's slapback time. But clearly, you can see how easy that is and why this is beneficial to just have one button. Say you want to have fun with something and you go, now batting number 6, Brody Brazil. Yeah, it really is that simple. So like I said, from a live streaming perspective, for just me at all the controls, this is super well laid out, super simple to understand. Okay, so now let me show you the combination of hardware and software with the Revelator io24. It comes with this program, Universal Control, which is good on Mac and PC. It's pretty simple and easy to understand. I mean, if you've been around these things before, this makes a lot of sense. I have right now on it the MKH416 preset, which I've created in terms of a high pass filter, EQ, compression, and a little bit of limiting at the end. I'll get into that in just a second, but first let me show you some of the other presets you can easily jump to. For example, Slapback Echo. Okay, or there's another one that's pretty popular. It's called Space Overlord. Yeah, so anyway, you can do a lot with this. You can do a lot of effects. Like I said, all in real time. I can hear that as I'm producing it with no latency. I want to make that very clear. I don't have the fastest MacBook Pro in the world, and this is just connected by a USB cable. Pretty amazing how they've done this, that I can hear this all happen with zero latency. So let's get into the preset that I've created from left to right here, beginning with the high pass filter. We're cutting everywhere below 80 hertz. You'll see that represented in just a second. I have gating turned off, but let me show you here, for example. Let me give you some room tone. Okay, now I just turned gating on. If you have headphones on right now and you're listening, you notice that when I stop talking, it goes to dead silent. And there's not a lot of gate chatter when I start and stop talking real fast. This is a pretty good noise gate. I am using it with the expander on here. It's set to auto. The threshold is set relatively high at minus 55 dB. But it cuts down on a little bit of the room noise and even reverb. But I leave that off here because I want it to sound as natural as possible. And I'm already doing enough other things to the signal, which you can do here in the software. So I do have an EQ curve set here, and I realize that this might be a bit aggressive. Some of you right now might be cringing at this. But I cut low. I give it a boost at, 115 hertz, 3 dB on a fairly tight Q, which then gives me the cut I want, just a little bit above that, maybe 150 into the 200s. I don't touch anything here in the low mids because of that cut. Up in the high mids, I'm boosting at 2000 hertz, 1.5 dB on a pretty wide Q there. And then I don't do anything else above this. This MKH416, it's a pretty top-heavy mic in the first place, so I don't want to boost anything above that. I do EQ first here before compression. You can flip-flop these two if you like. But for compression, there's a couple different models here you can use. There is essentially this 1176 clone, which I'm using. It's a FET compressor. You can see my input and output settings, but you can adjust the different ratios. 8:1, probably pretty intense right now. I could probably use this 4:1 just the same. And you can see a pretty heavy amount of compression here happening. And it's also very quick. This FET compressor is very quick. But again, you can throw this in line. You can have this happen in real time. You can hear this. You can hear your voice and perform with your voice fully compressed and EQ'd. That's exactly how it is in the broadcast world. This is what you want. So you can hear yourself exactly how viewers and subscribers are hearing it elsewhere. And then last but not least, there's a limiter here, which I do have on right now at -2 dB. I don't want any signal above that. That helps me with my levels as I'm live streaming, so that just in case I come in here and get really, really loud at the end, we're not going to clip or have anything get really messy like that. Let me now quickly go back to this since I can, just on the compressor here. I am using the FET compressor. There's also one here for, it's a tube compressor. This one modeling the LA2A, and I apologize if I don't have this set, exactly properly right now. I think somewhere in this range might get me what I'm looking for. Yeah, there's a little bit of compression. Yeah, something in there probably works. 1 to 3 dB on a pretty regular basis. And then there's also just kind of a standard compressor here, which I'm not using. Let me go back and reset this. I apologize for the difference in audio levels here. I'll go back to the FET. And just to show you how easy things are to reset, all I have to do is take this preset selector, take it away for a second, and then bring it right back to the MKH416. So now all my settings are back, including this FET compressor and the way I had it set up. And I might, by the way, with these settings, I might go back and totally re-alter these in time. I think the best way to find your ultimate microphone settings on a console like this with plugins is to experiment, to record 5 or 10 things. Listen in your car, listen on headphones, listen on computer speakers, figure out what sounds good or what doesn't sound good, and then go back and make very small little changes as you go. And then eventually, like me at home, I haven't touched my Universal Audio Apollo Twin X in a year now. I found the settings I have for the mic, the UAD7 at home, and I just roll with those. There's no need to change anything once you've found exactly what you like. The last thing I didn't touch on here yet is a bunch of different voice effects. There's not a ton of these, but there are enough to make it interesting. For example, let me see what delay sounds like. Sounds like I'm talking at a stadium. Or let me try doubler. Now this one sounds like I'm performing at a concert hall. Doubler, that's what it sounds like. Okay, here's ring modulator. Ring modulator. Ooh, that sounds really, really bad. See, and you can also mix the wet versus dry processing. Here's completely dry, and then it gets into wet. Or you can mess with the subcarrier. I mean, that is just, I apologize, that hurts my actual ears to listen to that. But there's a bunch of different things you can do here. Like I said, all in real time. In real time. Oh, my voice doesn't sound so great there, but
now when I do this, real time.
Anyway, you can have tons of fun with that. By the way, I should also mention to you here that when you use this device, there is a preset hotkey on it right here so that you can actually flip-flop into your settings. Like the slapback echo is on here right now. Let me just show you that. Here's slapback echo is the top one of my 2 presets, which are at the forefront. So hard to see here, and I apologize for the quality of this GoPro camera that's on it, but if I flip it here, boom. Just with hardware, I can change the preset. And then I can go back into the MKH416 setting, which I was using before. So if you don't want to be messing with the computer, if you're live streaming, again, you just want to punch on an effect real fast, that's literally how simple it is. There's a couple other things here. Let me just point out while I'm talking software. I don't mean to get too deep into this, but you can have your virtual playback channels with this interface and with this device. The way I've set it up is that virtual A and B are separate. Virtual B is connected to my soundboard right now. So for example, if I play you this, it's gonna come out on the soundboard channel. But if I wanna have another audio source like a Skype or a FaceTime call or a Zoom call, I can put that on virtual A so I can separate these two. I can also, because of that, I can create a couple different aux mixes. They might be called mix minuses elsewhere. Shut this off for a sec. They might be called other things depending on what you're using. But essentially, these are your mix minuses to those sources so that, for example, mix B, if I wanted to send this out to Skype, I could make it so that the guest, for example, wouldn't hear the soundboard or would hear me, but not hear themselves if they were on virtual A. I'd make sure that that's potted all the way down. So there is a ton of controllability and flexibility with this universal control software. Honestly, this for a device like this and a product like this and a price point like this, honestly, this is pretty impressive what you can do. And I know there's more here I didn't get into, but this kind of gives you a taste of what the software side is all about. I think the biggest compliment I could give this device is that it resembles the UAD Apollo Twin X in so many ways, but it's a fraction of the cost. Now, I should also throw in there, it has a fraction of the capabilities in terms of processing on multiple channels and the amount of plugins with the universal audio ecosystem. I mean, you could literally produce a hit record with an Apollo Twin X. The amount of plugins, what you could do with musical instruments, that device, let's be honest, it's way overkill for how I'm using it and for how most people in content creation are using it. That's really a device and hardware that's meant for musicians and producers of songs. But something like this is so perfect for live streaming. It doesn't have all the features. It doesn't have nearly a fraction of the plugins, but it does all of the basics so well. And I got to tell you, the most important way this compares is that real-time processing. That's the reason I went out and got the Apollo Twin X, because there was nothing else like it. A handful of years ago, it was the only thing that did that reliably and did it well. And so I love it. I do not regret the UAD one bit. I would not sell that ever. I don't intend on parting ways with it ever. But I have to say, it's a product in the $1,000 range. It comes with a cost. Very expensive. You need to buy more plugins typically to get the full assortment of what you're trying to do. Something like this for $200, which does the same basics and does it well. I mean, now we're talking about a device in a much different price point and something that a lot more people might want to get their hands on. So I don't want to take away from the Apollo Twin X at all. That is still, to me, the gold standard. But there's nothing wrong with winning a silver medal and having a medal and being in that same caliber. Like, this thing is, I would recommend this to more people than the Apollo, because I think more people need exactly this and could find better usage and service out of this. So just to recap, the PreSonus Revelator io24, fantastic product. Again, I expected some things out of it. I got all of that and more. I love this thing. I can't wait to use it on all of my remote live streams and recordings.